G'day tubers, Merry Christmas, hope you are all well. Thank you to my subscribers, my viewers and anyone else who contributes anything at all. Apologies, I stuffed up the audio editing at the beginning of the last video, so we're going to try and not do that again. Yeah, easy. Anyway, let's hook in, get on with part 4.
Well, continuing work on the bike, guys. Yeah, as I've probably said before, I don't know how many bloody times, all the work's in cleaning up the parts. Decided to go with black for the engine with highlights. That's a little cam cover, come up all right. Chain tensioner, cam chain tensioner, I beg your pardon. Yeah, still got to pull that case apart. That's sort of the top of the rocker cover, I suppose you'd call it. I'm getting a new piston and cylinder. Just painted one of the forks. It's going to be a gloss red frame. I've got the paint. That was just out of a rattle can. I'll see how it comes up. It's not looking too bad. The finish is all right, but we'll see how it goes. And a bit dark in this corner. That's the clutch housing. I've given that a good coat of gloss black. Starter motor, they come up all right, as I say. Look, I'm no painter, but they haven't come up too bad. Yeah, so as I say, it's going to be black engine with lots of little highlights. So yeah, it should come up all right. I've still got to do, well, the tank's got to have a bit of prep. The tank's not too bad. A couple of little tiny dents there, which I'll put a bit of body filler on. There was a fair bit of a dent there. I've managed to push most of it out from inside, but there's still a little bit there. I'll just put a bit of body filler in that, or Bondo, as our American friends like to call it. Yeah, sort of, it's coming along slowly. Nothing like nice new engine components, guys. Got my special tool to undo the nuts on the clutch hub and that. Got new nuts for it. Brand new cylinder and piston, valve seals, gudgeon pin or wrist pin like the Americans call them, rings and a couple of gaskets. Yeah, I'll give that a lick of paint, make it black. Or actually, I don't know, might just leave it raw. No, we'll give it a coat of black and finish it off. That can go in the bin. Yeah, we're getting there. Just remember to take these dowel pins out of the old cylinder barrel or cylinder. The long ones go to the top and the short ones go to the bottom. We'll start assembling the cylinder head, guys. We'll put new valve stem seals. They're the new ones. And they're the old ones, those two. You can see the difference in the size of the hole and also that lip. And that's probably been a bit stretched over the years, obviously, but it has history of an oil user, as you know. This could be part of the reason. The valve guide seals just push on, guys, just a bit of grease on the stem and just push them on. Make sure they're not deformed in any way. Here's something else I noticed. This hole here, when I pulled the engine apart, was plugged up with like a rubber plug or a silicon. That's an oil gallery. Now if you look there, there's a little hole. That's the outlet of the oil gallery to go to that cam bearing. I was going to leave that open. Now what that would result in is a loss of oil pressure, and probably not enough to the cam and reduced at the bottom end. We're just going to plug that up with a bit of silicon or Celastic, but making sure we don't block that oil gallery hole there. Yeah, there was a rubber sort of thing, but I've lost that, so it may come in the gasket set. Let's install some valves, guys. Just put that exhaust, I think it is. Yeah, that's exhaust. Put that in. Just remember, under the spring go these steel shims. One on the outer spring, one on the inner spring. Don't forget to put them in, or you're going to very quickly chop out your aluminium cylinder head. Well, after much pain and swearing, we got the valves in. No, I've got two different valve spring compressor tools, and neither of them would do the job. So what I come up with was a G clamp and a bit of tube that was cut so, and you can just put it round the valve, clamp it up with a G clamp, and that gap, that one there, gives you just enough room to work to put the collets in, if that makes sense. A little bit fiddly, needed a few bits and pieces, bent screwdrivers and so on, but got them in. Once you get them in, just get your hammer, not heavy, and just give them a tap on the end of the valve. Don't belt shit out of it, just give them a tap. That ensures that everything is seated properly. Well, one clutch assembly, guys. The special tool work to treat. Yeah, just lay it out in order, and yeah, you won't have any droners. Just about to split this case, guys. Pulled all the bolts that I can see. Yeah, there's nothing on this side. That case should just lift off this way with a bit of luck. Probably need a bit of a tap. Don't go flat out with the hammer, you'll probably bust something. Might open a can of worms here, guys, I tell you. Yeah, it come apart. A few little bits I've got to work out where the bloody hell they went. Yeah, but we got it down. All of that fell to bits, but like most of these things, it'll probably only go together one way. So we're going to have to be very, very careful about what we do here. As Alice Cooper once said, or once wrote or sang, "Welcome to my nightmare." We're getting there. Got that housing all cleaned up, coat of paint on it. As you can see, just about ready to start reassembly. Haven't got the gaskets and seals yet, but I can start cleaning up some of these components and putting them in, and getting it organised. Most of it's sort of cleaned. Yeah, that's the other side of the housing. That's all done. Just waiting on, as I said, the gaskets and seals. Yeah, look, I can't get a manual. For the life of me, I cannot find a repair manual for a CTX 200. I can find plenty of owner's manuals, but they don't go into this sort of detail. But what I am able to find is a parts manual. And while that doesn't give you settings, it does show you the order in which the parts go in. So, yeah, we'll go with that. Well, we've started on the reassembly of the gearbox. The housings are painted. We can basically assemble all the gear sets, selector mechanism, so on and so on, gear selector, shaft, kickstarter, crank. Just waiting on the gaskets now, so I can put that gasket in there and drop that housing on. Just watch, there's a lot of thrust washers on these sorts of things that you can really easily lose. I've got no parts left over at this point, so that says to me I'm half right. We'll see, but yeah, just take your time with these, as they can be a little bit fiddly. Screwing around with a bit of paint, guys. Done the tank. Paint job come up all right, but it's going to need a cut and polish. Swing arm come up all right too, needs a cut and polish. Just put the new bushings in. Just painted the frame out there, as you can see. That's drying. Yeah, cleaned up the exhaust. So that come up all right. We're not far off starting to reassemble. Well, we got our gaskets and seal kit, O-ring seals, all that kind of crap. Appears to be correct. We're going to start reassembly of this motor. Plenty of pre-lube on all these components. I've got to put some in that bearing yet. Set your gearbox in neutral. That's easy enough to check. Those two shafts should be able to spin independent of each other, like that basically. See how that shaft's not turning? That's your neutral. Make sure everything's free. Now we're going to put the gasket on, clean face. I'm not going to use any silicone or anything like that. Make sure your dowels are in. We don't need a sealant. These surfaces are clean and flat. As I say, you've got to line up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, thereabouts anyway. If the housing doesn't go with a light tap, do not force it. You just need one of these things to be out of line and it won't go. So yeah, just push them home very gently and pull them down real evenly. Put your drive shaft and your selector seals in place. Just tap them in gently, just down till they're flush, and then a bit of lubricant on the shafts, and that should fall together hopefully fairly easy. Well, that's that side housing on, guys. So that's basically the gearbox closed up. Everything's still rotating freely. This shaft's a little bit tighter. That's only because it's running on a brand new seal. I've still got a neutral. I've just got to check that that's free. That's a gear selector. But yeah, just pull this whole housing down evenly. They're only an M6 bolt or whatever they are, so they're not huge and they don't have to be massively tight. Just tight, you know. We've got to put our little neutral switch in there. There's that. That just sort of sits in like so. It's on there's 2 flats. Now just check the other housing, which is that one. There may be something that has to line up with, I don't know. Once again, don't belt shit out of it. Just tap it in on the sides gently, and that's your neutral switch. We've turned the motor over to the other side. This is where your clutch hub and all that goes. This is your oil pump. I tried like hell to get those screws out, not a chance. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This little piece is part of the drive, or it is the drive. That sits in there and there's a little flat, and you'll see the flat on the gear inside. That's easy to lose and bloody easy to forget. Without it, you won't have any oil pressure, and your brand new engine will go for about a minute, and that'll be the end of it. Put your kickstarter spring in and that bushing, and just simulate the kickstarter. So your kickstarter's there, it's going to kick down this way. So just grab your pliers, twist that and make sure it springs back, which it's doing, that's fine. Make sure your gear selector's all sitting in properly. Your oil pump's in. We might start on that, actually we'll put our crank gear on and then we'll start on our clutch hub. Tighten your clutch hub with your new special tool, and then tap over that lip just so it can't undo, and that should be your clutch done. Clutch hub's all done, guys. Bit of lube on the bearing, so on and so on. Clutch plates feel like they've tightened up. Looks all right. When you push down on that, that should release the clutch by right. So, yeah, hopefully it's all right. We'll find out, I suppose, when we go to start it. Oil pump's on and in, bit of lube on the inside. We're just about ready to put this side casing on, and that's that side of the motor just about closed. Nut to go on there, of course. The one which we butchered. Of course, there's that oil slinger to go on yet, but yeah, it's coming on. This is the clutch housing, guys. New seal on the kickstarter shaft. New seal on the clutch lever shaft. Clean surfaces once again. Same thing. Put your dowels in. That's going to locate your gasket properly. Just check everything else is in order. I think it is. I mean, you know, the beauty of this is when you start it, you'll find out if you've got it right or not, because it'll all turn to shit. That's the clutch housing on, guys. Once again, just check your shafts that everything's still turning properly and all of that. Shouldn't be any issues. Make sure you on your clutch fork or your clutch lever, got a little bit of clearance there. Yeah, other than that, yeah, it's coming up all right so far. Righto, we flipped over to the other side, guys. The cam chain side, the flywheel side, all of that. This is all looking all right. As I say, we've still got a good neutral there. Yeah, we'll start off. What we'll do is we'll put the chain in place and put the chain guide, retainer, I suppose you'd call it. It's just so the chain doesn't fall off when the chain goes slack. It's just so it doesn't fall off the crankshaft gear down there, guys. Try focusing. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't come off the crankshaft gear. That's your cam chain locator in. Well, it's not. Well, it's sort of. It's probably a retainer rather than a locator. The chain can't drop down out of the gear. It can do that, but it can't actually drop off the crank gear. So it's. Oh yeah. Well, hang on here. Look, it's making a bloody liar out of me. Yeah, it's. Yeah, it's very hard. Well, it's impossible for it to come away. It might drop out of time, but it won't fall right out. See, there it is back on. As I say, we'll worry about timing later, but yeah, make sure you put that on or you're going to be in a world of pain when you're trying to reassemble it. Just to assist with timing, guys, you'll see on the housing there's a bit of a pointer, and on the flywheel you'll see a line and a T. Your timing is when, line those two up, the line and that point on the housing on the T. Not on that F. The F is firing. That comes around as the motor's rotating. That comes up first. That's your firing point. That's giving you advance. And then you have your timing point, which is that. That's for your cam timing. Well, that's the crankcase reassembled, guys. Yeah, starter's still to go in, obviously. Yeah, wiring's in and done. Remember to put that protector in there. Obviously no oil yet, but yeah, it's starting to look like an engine. Well, pistons on, guys. Stagger your rings, the same old story. You've got basically 3 rings, so 120 degrees apart in the gap. So one there, one there, one there, basically. Here's a little tip. When you're putting those circlips in, that one in there, on the gudgeon pin or wrist pin, whatever you want to call them, put some rags over all the openings in the crankcase, because if you drop that, it's going to go straight in there. You'll never find it, and you'll have to strip your motor down again, and yeah, you'll be in a world of shit. So yeah, just, you know, put a rag there so the circlip doesn't fall down. Cylinders on, guys. Same as bloody any other cylinder, really. Stagger your rings, plenty of oil. Pull your cam chain through as you go. Yeah, new gasket on the bottom, obviously. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Top ends, you know. The only place, well, one of the main places you're going to go wrong is, can happen to anyone, is cam chain timing. So, yeah, we're calling it quits on this today, but tomorrow we'll be back to it. Starting to get to the business end now, guys. Oh, that's just holding the chain from falling down. Just slid the cylinder head on, pull the chain up through. Remember to put your front guide, that one, in first, because the cylinder head actually clamps down on it and holds it in place. The other one we should be able to get in place afterwards. If you look in, turn my little torch on. If you look in there, you can probably make out an F. If I can get the light right, see F? And there's a little line there. Now, F is for firing, so timing is slightly that way. So what we need to do is just rotate that. Now, the trouble is, you can feel it's right on the magnet that induces the current for the spark. And it's actually sort of fighting the ratchet a little bit. And you can feel it wanting to spring back. So that's going to be a little, you can just make out the line there, sort of. We'll sort that out in a minute. But I want you to take note of the cam. The piston's got to be at top dead centre. And the lobes, see how they're 180 degrees opposite from the top. And those 2 screws, those 2, are dead up and down in line with everything. That's telling me that that cam's timed and it's on its compression stroke. So yeah, so what we want to do now is put the cam gear on. Do not put the tensioner in yet. You'll pull everything out of time. We'll put the cam gear on and have a closer look then. Right, I think this is right, guys. Number one, have a look at your cam lobes. They're both as far 180 degrees, or pointing straight down in the middle of each other, if that makes sense. Your cam gear's on. Observe those two lines. They're both in line with the top of the cylinder head. And if you look in there, if I can get the light right, you can make out that T, and that's in line with that little notch. That, to me, says that's timed. Now, I hope to Christ it is. I haven't put the tensioner in yet, because if I put the tensioner in, it'll just pop all that apart. The tensioner will go in once the cylinder head's on. I think we're all right for timing there. Obviously, when you put the tensioner in, that'll tension the chain. That might rotate that slightly, but it shouldn't jump out of time. I think we're okay. Well, I'm reasonably comfortable with the timing. We're about to put the rocker cover on. No gasket supplied for that. So what we'll just use is a bit of Celastic, just to seal it off. Put plenty of cam lube on your what's-her-names and a little bit on the bloody top of the valves, just like so. Yeah, and we're ready to sort of sit the top on and pull the cylinder head down. Well, there it is, guys. The engine's done. Cranks over all right. I haven't tried the electric starter, but Kickstarter works all right. It's got compression. We did the valves at about 0.01 of a millimetre. It didn't come up too, I mean, it looks a damn sight better than what it was. Oh, I've got a bit of copper coat there when I put the plug in. Because you've got steel and aluminium, I always put a bit of copper coat or something on the thread of the plug. Hopefully it's timed all right. Mechanically, I think it's okay. Don't know about the if it's got spark or not, because I've got no electrics yet. I've cleaned up that loom, but I may have to change that a little bit. Tensioner went in fine. Timing seems okay. Fingers crossed, guys.
Well, that's part 4, guys. See you very shortly in part 5.